Well, good afternoon. It's Jimmy from Stuart Arts. It's a Saturday afternoon. Augie and I just rode over from the house to the shop. We stopped and had a delicious lunch. And so now I'm in the shop, and my plan is to solve a nagging issue we have with this Apple power supply. It seems that all these things over time, these cables, they will start to fray right here at the plug. And so this belongs to a 5-year-old computer that's otherwise been working well, but like all of our other Apple devices, the cable has frayed right here at the connection point. Now it works okay, there doesn't seem to be a short in the cable, but it just needs something put on here to stabilize it. So I'm going to devise some kind of a little cast for this. Hope you enjoy as I go through that. And this is the little magnetic connector here, and you can see, hopefully you can see where the cable is frayed here. Got out the calipers and did a little bit of a dimensional analysis on this thing. It looks like this little rectangular portion here is roughly ½ inch deep, something like that, a little more than a ½ inch wide, and about 200 thousandths top to bottom. And then the cable itself measures about 130 thousandths in that range. And so looking at it, in order to clear where the cable has frayed, we'll need to make some kind of a sleeve for this that's about 1.5 inches long. So the constraints are that this thing has to fit within it, and when you plug it into the computer here, you've got to make sure that you've got clearance to the tabletop. And we measured this, and it looks like when you plug the power supply in, you have roughly 3/16 inch clearance. So taking all that into consideration, what I'm going to try to do here today is to build a little sleeve out of corian. I've got a bunch of the scrap corian. You've seen a couple videos of mine on this. Here's the little piece of corian I plan to use. And what I'll do is I'll mill a nice little slot in here. It needs to be about 1/4 inch deep. And then I'll just through drill for the cable. But in order to close this thing over the top of the plug, I'll need to split it. So I'm going to cut it with the bandsaw in half. I'll have something like 30 thousandths worth of kerf there when I do that. But I should end up with a few thousandths of clearance all around the plug. And the idea will be to use a 2-part epoxy, which I'll put into the center of the plug and then just squeeze the whole mess together. And so hopefully that'll take care of us. Here's our little piece of corian. I squared it off on the sander here, and I brought it back over to the bench and just kind of sketched out what it's got to look like here. So what we're going to do is we're going to mill a rectangular slot in the face of this to take this part of the plug, and then we'll put a drill down the center of it, roughly 1/4 inch, and that'll contain this larger piece of the cable, and then it also should encapsulate the injury here. And then we'll reduce the diameter of it just a little bit to capture the cable itself. And so we will go ahead and mill that out and drill it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut it off here, and then I'm going to split this because it'll be a 2-piece clamshell that we're going to end up with.
I've decided to drill first. The cable diameter is about 130 thousandths, so I have a 150 thousandths bit. When I cut this thing in half, I'm going to have about a 20 to 30 thousandths kerf. So I need to make this hole a little bit oversized. There we go. All the way through the part here. And so next, we're going to drill this counter bore here, and that we're going to take out to about 1/4 inch. I've set the depth stop on the drill so that it will not go any farther than we need, but it should provide a good cavity for our epoxy. Excellent. Came out good. And now we're going to go ahead and mill this slot. we'll pop that out of there and see if the plug wants to fit in there. Looks good.
All right, there's the finished product. 2 pieces of the clamshell. Came off a little bit off center, but I was just kind of eyeballing it. And when I cut it in half, I was really amazed at how well that actually worked. And I had the center hole off center, so I ended up coping this out just a little bit with my Dremel tool. Just took 2 seconds. And so this thing is going to fit in here very nicely. What I did is I trimmed away some of the extra jacketing, some of the frayed jacketing right here. And I'm just going to seal this thing in here with some good old dollar store super glue, cyanoacrylate. Works really well with corian, so I'll goob it up in here pretty good, and I'll just put a few drops here, and then I'll just clamp it. And 10 or 15 minutes it'll set up, and it should be good to go. Okay, just a few drops there. Make sure I put plenty in the cavity, some here to really capture the plug. And I'll set the plug in there. And top half of the clamshell, and we're good. I think that's going to work just fine. Guys, if you're having a discussion with your wife about buying one of these little mini mills, you might want to show her this video. She may see the need, especially if she's got an Apple device. So there it is. It's working pretty good. And what are your thoughts?
I told you it was a good idea to get a Harbor Freight mini mill.